Pepper knocked over the water glass again. Owen watched the liquid spread across his workstation, soaking into the technical manuals he'd been reading. The orange tabby cat sat nearby, licking her paw with complete indifference to the chaos she'd caused. "You're lucky you're cute," Owen muttered, grabbing a cloth to clean up the mess. This was life on Station Concordia, humanity's first deep space trading hub, filled with dozens of alien species, and Owen Briggs spent most of his time alone in his quarters with a cat. Other humans lived on the station, but they worked different sectors, different shifts. Owen maintained environmental systems in the civilian wing, a job that kept him busy but isolated. Pepper meowed and rubbed against his leg. Owen reached down to scratch behind her ears, feeling the familiar rumble of her purr. She'd been with him for 3 years now, since he'd found her as a kitten in the cargo bay. Someone had smuggled her aboard illegally, then abandoned her when security started asking questions. Owen had taken her in without thinking twice. The other species on the station didn't understand. His co-worker Sella, a mantis-like churrick with compound eyes and clicking mandibles, had asked him once why he kept a tiny predator in his home. "She's not a predator," Owen had said. "She's a pet." Sella's antennae had twitched with confusion. "It has retractable claws and hunting instincts." "How is that not a predator?" Owen hadn't known how to explain. How could you tell someone that Pepper was both things at once? Yes, she had claws. Yes, she stalked and pounced on toy mice. But she also curled up on his chest at night, purring like a small engine. She headbutted his hand when she wanted attention. She was dangerous and harmless, wild and domestic, all at the same time that he finished cleaning the spill and noticed a bright holographic flyer on his message screen. The Galactic Harmony Pet Exhibition. Owen had heard about it before. Every year, species from across the galaxy gather to show off their most impressive companion animals. The Drennet Collective usually won with their mood spheres, those weird gelatinous blobs that change color based on emotions. Owen read through the rules. Celebrate the finest examples of domesticated companionship across civilized space. That sounded nice. Then he saw the restrictions. No death world predators, venomous species, or creatures requiring specialized containment. He looked at Pepper. She was grooming herself, completely absorbed in licking her front paw and wiping it over her face. "What do you think?" Owen asked her. "Want to prove you're not dangerous?" Pepper ignored him. Owen pulled up the application form. It was straightforward enough. Species name, origin world, care requirements, behavioral characteristics. He filled out honestly. Felis catus, Earth origin, domesticated carnivore. Requires daily feeding, water, clean litter box. Behavioral characteristics, independent, affectionate, playful, sleeps 16 hours per day. He hesitated before submitting. This was probably stupid. They'd reject it immediately. But something about those rules bothered him. Pepper didn't require specialized containment. She wandered freely around his quarters. She'd never attacked anyone. She was exactly what the exhibition claimed to celebrate, a companion animal. But because she came from Earth, she'd automatically be labeled dangerous. Owen hit submit. The rejection came back within an hour. "Thank you for your interest in the Galactic Harmony Pet Exhibition. Unfortunately, your entry does not meet our safety protocols regarding apex predators. We cannot accept creatures with natural hunting instincts and carnivorous diets." Owen read it twice. Apex predator. Pepper weighed 4 kilograms. She was afraid of the vacuum cleaner. He drafted an appeal. "According to your published rules, you prohibit creatures requiring specialized containment. My cat requires no containment. She lives freely in standard habitat conditions. She has never harmed another being. The rule appears to prohibit dangerous animals, but my cat is not dangerous." He sent it before he could talk himself out of it. Sella stopped by his workstation the next day, her mandibles clicking rapidly, which Owen had learned meant she was agitated. "Did you really apply to the Harmony exhibition?" she asked. "How did you know about that?" "Everyone knows. It's all over the station networks. The human who wants to parade his predator at a civilized event." Sella's antennae drooped. "Owen, this is foolish. They will never accept it. You will only make yourself look ignorant of proper domestication. Pepper is properly domesticated. Owen said quietly. She's a carnivore with retractable claws. She's a cat. Sella made a sound like wind through reeds, which Owen thought might be a sigh. I know you are lonely here. I know Pepper provides you comfort. But other species will not understand. They will see only the danger. Owen wanted to argue, but Sella was probably right. He went back to his quarters, feeling deflated. Then his message screen lit up. The appeal had been shared publicly, and people were talking about it. Most of the comments were negative. Typical Death Worlder arrogance. Humans don't understand the difference between taming and domestication. This is why Earth species should be restricted to their homeworld. But there were other comments too. A xenobiologist named Dr. Hallis Cray had written a long post about human-animal bonds. The human brain is uniquely wired for cross-species empathy. They form genuine emotional connections with creatures entirely unlike themselves. This trait deserves study, not dismissal. Another message came through. This one was official from Counselor Vim, the Drenic who organized the exhibition. We have received the human's appeal. While we appreciate creative interpretations of our rules, the safety of all participants and spectators must be our priority. Allowing an uncontained predator would set a dangerous precedent. Owen felt his face flush with anger. Uncontained predator. He looked at Pepper, who was currently trying to fit herself into a box half her size, her back legs sticking out awkwardly. His screen pinged again. Dr. Cray had sent him a private message. Don't give up. Make them defend their position publicly. Ask them to define domestication. Ask them to explain why behavioral evidence doesn't matter. Owen thought about it. He could drop this. Go back to his quiet life with Pepper. Avoid the controversy. But something in him refused. Not because he wanted to prove anything about humans. Just because people should see Pepper for what she actually was. He sent one more message to the exhibition committee. I request a formal hearing on my appeal. I will present behavioral evidence of domestication. If you reject it, I ask that you publicly define what criteria my cat fails to meet. 3 days later, the exhibition board sent their decision. In the interest of transparency and public education, we will accept your entry under enhanced observation protocols. You will have one opportunity to demonstrate that your creature meets acceptable standards of companionship. Owen read it 3 times. They'd said yes. They'd actually said yes. Pepper jumped in his lap, purring. She had no idea she'd just become the most controversial entry in the exhibition's history. Well, Owen said, scratching under her chin, I guess we'd better not mess this up. Pepper's only response was to knead his leg with her claws, a gesture of affection that left tiny puncture marks in his skin. Owen smiled despite the pain. That was the whole problem, wasn't it? The thing that made Pepper perfect was exactly what made everyone else afraid. The exhibition hall looked like something from a dream. Crystalline structures grew from the floor, housing delicate organisms that glowed in shifting colors. Anti-grav platforms floated near the ceiling, supporting gaseous life forms that pulsed with bioluminescence. Everything was beautiful, elegant, and completely alien. Owen's assigned space sat in the corner, surrounded by warning signs. A reinforced transparent enclosure dominated the area, with backup containment fields humming at the edges. Security cameras pointed at it from 3 different angles. It looked like a cage for something truly dangerous. Pepper's carrier sat at his feet. She was unusually quiet, probably stressed by all the strange smells and sounds that a Drenic official approached, her mood sphere companion floating beside her in a neutralizer field. The sphere was shifting between pale blue and soft green, colors Owen had learned meant calm attentiveness. You are the human with the predator. The Drenic's voice came through a translation device, smooth and formal. I am Owen Briggs. This is Pepper. I am Yeneth, 3-time champion of this exhibition. She gestured to her mood spheres. I must say, I find it remarkable that the board allowed this. Mood spheres represent the pinnacle of harmonious companionship. They exist in pure, emotional synchronization with their bonded partners. That sounds nice, Owen said, trying to be polite. It is more than nice. It is the ideal. Companionship without conflict, without danger, without the messy complications of physical needs. Yennefer's mood spheres shifted to a smug purple. I wonder what your creature offers that could possibly compare. Before Owen could answer, a soft voice spoke from behind him. Perhaps authenticity? Owen turned to see a small, round alien with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She held a clear container filled with swirling algae that sparkled with internal light. I am Kiba, she said. Pillawan. This is Shimmer. She indicated the algae colony. Please forgive Yennefer. Success has made her confident. Yennefer made a huffing sound and glided away, her mood spheres now an indignant orange. Thank you, Owen said. I am curious about your companion, Kiba said. I have never seen an earth animal before. Is it true they are all predators? Not all of them, but Pepper is, yes. She's a cat, an obligate carnivore. Kiba's eyes widened. And yet you keep her in your home? Without barriers? She doesn't need barriers. She's domesticated. I do not understand the difference. Owen was trying to figure out how to explain when a new voice interrupted. The difference is choice. Dr. Hallis Cray approached, her reptilian features sharp and intelligent. I'm glad you accepted my support, Owen. This exhibition needs to see what you represent. A massive figure loomed behind her. 6 arms, each as thick as Owen's leg, and a face that looked carved from stone. Security Officer Brun. We need to conduct the mandatory safety briefing, Brun rumbled. Demonstrate your creature's restraint systems. Owen blinked. Restraint systems? Leash, harness, containment protocols. Standard requirements for potentially dangerous animals. She's not dangerous. Then the demonstration should be simple. Brun's many arms crossed in a gesture that somehow conveyed both authority and skepticism. Owen opened the carrier. Pepper emerged slowly, low to the ground, ears swiveling to catch every sound. Owen pulled out a simple harness from his bag, the kind designed for cats who needed to visit the veterinarian. Getting on Pepper was a familiar struggle. She twisted, ducked, and generally made it clear she didn't appreciate this indignity. Owen finally got it fastened and attached a leash. This is your containment system? Brun sounded incredulous. She's a 4-kilogram animal. This is more than enough. Show me it works. Owen gave a gentle tug on the leash. Pepper immediately sat down and refused to move, staring at him with obvious betrayal in her eyes. She is resisting your control, Brun observed. She doesn't like the harness. Cats don't really walk on leashes like dogs do. Dog? Another earth animal. They're more obedient. Then why did you not bring a dog? Owen looked down at Pepper, who was now trying to back out of the harness. Because I have a cat. Dr. Cray stepped in. Officer Brun, I believe you are seeing the very thing that makes this relationship remarkable. The cat maintains her autonomy. The human respects it. This is not control. It is cooperation. It looks like chaos, Brun muttered, but he stepped back. Owen removed the harness, and Pepper immediately began grooming herself in angry, aggressive licks. Over the next hour, other participants arrived. Ratch and Filna, a bonded pair of churiks, carried in a formation of singing crystals. The crystals hummed at frequencies that made Owen's bones vibrate pleasantly. They explained that the crystals grew in their home caves and bonded to specific sound patterns, creating unique harmonies with their chosen partners. Everyone was polite, but Owen noticed how they kept their distance. They'd glance at Pepper, then look away quickly. A few asked questions, but carefully, as if afraid of offending someone dangerous. The only one who seemed genuinely interested was Kiba. She approached the transparent enclosure where Owen had set up a temporary space for Pepper. May I observe her more closely? Of course. Kiba watched as Pepper explored the enclosure, sniffing corners and rubbing her face against the edges. She marks territory? Sort of. Cats have scent glands on their faces. When she rubs against things, she's making them smell familiar. It makes her feel safe. She needs to feel safe. Even though she is a predator, she's still a small animal in a big universe. She gets scared like anyone else. Kiba was quiet for a moment. My Shimmer is a symbiotic colony. We exchange nutrients and electrical signals. It is a perfect biological partnership. But I wonder sometimes if Shimmer has any awareness of me as separate from itself. Does that matter? I do not know. Your cat, clearly knows you are separate. She chooses to be near you anyway. That night, when most participants had left, Owen created a small space for Pepper using his jacket. He laid it in the corner of the enclosure, knowing she'd seek out something that smelled like him. Sure enough, Pepper circled it 3 times before curling up into a tight ball, her nose tucked under her tail. Owen sat outside the enclosure, watching her sleep. Tomorrow the exhibition would officially begin. Thousands of aliens would see Pepper for the first time. Most would see a predator. Some might see a pet. But would any of them understand what she really was? Not a possession, not a trophy, just a small creature who'd chosen to trust him, and whom he'd chosen to care for, the doctor. Cray's voice came from behind him. You look worried. I don't know if I can explain it, Owen admitted. The bond we have. It's not like the mood spheres or the algae colonies. It's messy, eh? Sometimes she ignores me. Sometimes she wakes me up at 3 in the morning wanting food. Sometimes she knocks things off tables just to watch them fall. And yet you love her. Yeah, then show them that tomorrow. Not the perfection they expect. The truth. Owen nodded. Inside the enclosure, Pepper twitched in her sleep, probably dreaming of hunting. Her paws flexed, tiny claws extending and retracting. Tomorrow, Owen thought. Tomorrow they'd see what real companionship looked like. Thousands of beings filled the exhibition hall. Owen had never seen so many different species in one place. Some walked, some floated, some slithered. The air hummed with translation devices, converting dozens of languages into a constant background murmur. 5 judges entered through the main entrance, each representing a major galactic civilization. The crowd quieted as they took their positions. The lead judge was Ornith, a being made entirely of living crystal. Light refracted through their body, creating rainbow patterns on the floor. We gathered to celebrate companionship. Ornith's voice resonated like wind chimes. The bonds that cross the boundaries between species. The relationships that enrich our lives and expand our understanding. The formal presentations began. Yenith went first, naturally. Her 3 mood spheres floated in perfect formation, their colors shifting in synchronized patterns. She explained their empathic connection, how they reflected and amplified her emotional state. The spheres cycled through joy, serenity, and pride, each color pure and brilliant. The judges made notes. Remarkable purity of bond, one murmured. Next came Ratch and Filna with their singing crystals. The Churik pair harmonized with the crystals, creating sounds that seemed to paint pictures in the air. The melody spoke of deep caves and ancient stone, of patience and time measured in centuries. Beautiful acoustic symbiosis, another judge noted. Kiba presented her algae colony. She explained the biochemical exchange, how Shimmer processed certain toxins from her body while she provided nutrients. Under specific light, the algae created bioluminescent patterns that spelled out mathematical sequences. Perfect biological partnership, the judges agreed. The presentations continued. Each one showcased a different form of companionship. Each one was elegant, controlled, and utterly alien to Owen's experience with Pepper. Then it was his turn. The crowd pressed closer, filling every available space near his enclosure. Security Officer Brunn positioned himself at the entrance, all 6 arms ready. Owen noticed several medical personnel standing by, just in case. Owen entered the enclosure, carrying Pepper. The crowd gasped. Many stepped back. A few translation devices crackled with words Owen's device rendered as various forms of alarm. He set Pepper down gently. She sat for a moment, green eyes scanning the crowd with typical feline suspicion. Judge Ornith's crystalline form refracted the light differently, which Owen had learned meant focused attention. State your species designation. Felis catus, from Earth, commonly called a cat. Origin world classification. Death world. High gravity, variable climate, significant predator competition. A ripple went through the crowd. Death world are confirmed. Standard care requirements. Owen relaxed slightly. These were easy questions. Daily feeding, carnivorous diet. Fresh water. Waste management through a substrate box. Environmental enrichment through play. Social interaction on her terms. Lifespan, 12 to 18 years typically. Pepper is currently 3. Demonstrate the bond, Ornith said. This was it. Owen pulled out the feather toy from his pocket, a simple stick with bright feathers attached. Pepper's eyes locked onto it immediately. Her whole body changed. Pupils dilated until her eyes looked black. She crouched low, weight shifting to her back legs. Her tail began to twitch, just the tip, back and forth. The crowd reacted with fear. Translation devices spat out warnings. Owen heard attack posture and predatory behavior, and this is madness. But Owen knew better. He flicked the feather toy. Pepper pounced. She tumbled with the toy, grabbing it with her front paws while her back legs kicked rapidly. She released it, crouched again, and pounced once more. Her movements were fast, aggressive, perfect representations of a predator taking down prey. Except she was playing. Stop this demonstration, someone shouted from the crowd. But Owen continued, moving the toy in unpredictable patterns. Pepper chased it with complete focus, leaping and twisting. At one point, she jumped nearly 3 times her body height. Snatching the feather from the air, a small voice cut through the chaos. Why does it pretend to hunt? Owen looked and saw a young Pillowon, barely knee-high, staring at Pepper with wonder instead of fear. That's a great question, Owen said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Pepper has hunting instincts. She's a predator, but she's also domesticated, which means those instincts don't disappear, they just find new outlets. Play lets her practice being a cat without actually hunting. She's not trying to kill the feather. She's enjoying the game. Dr. Cray stepped closer to the enclosure. What Owen demonstrates is crucial. The human doesn't suppress the cat's nature. He provides appropriate channels for it. This is cooperation, not domination. It is dangerous, Yennefer called out. Look at those claws, those teeth. One moment of lost control, and someone could be injured. She's never lost control, Owen said quietly. Because I respect what she is. I don't ask her to be something else. He set down the feather toy. Pepper pounced on it a few more times. Then, apparently satisfied with her victory, she simply walked away from it. She approached Owen and rubbed against his legs, purring loud enough that nearby aliens could hear the rumbling sound. What is that noise? Someone asked nervously. She's purring. It means she's content. Pepper continued rubbing against him, then did something she always did when she was happy. She flopped on her side, exposing her belly. The crowd gasped again, interpreting it as submission or fear. That's trust, Owen said. Her belly is her most vulnerable area. When she shows it to me, she's saying she feels safe. He knelt down and gently rubbed her belly. Pepper grabbed his hand with her front paws, claws extended just enough to prick his skin but not break it. She brought his hand to her mouth and gave it a gentle bite, what Owen called a love bite. To the crowd, it looked like an attack. Translation devices went wild, but Owen knew better. She's playing. If she wanted to hurt me, I'd know. Cats have incredible bite force for their size. This is her being gentle. He stood up, and Pepper rolled back on her feet. She stretched, front legs extended, back arched, then padded over to the corner where Owen's jacket lay. She circled it 3 times and curled up, tucking her nose under her tail. Within seconds, she was asleep. The exhibition hall fell silent. Judge Ornith moved closer to the enclosure, light refracting through their crystalline body in complex patterns. The creature demonstrated predatory behavior, then affection, then complete vulnerability, all in the span of minutes. That's Pepper, Owen said. She's not one thing. She's complex, just like the bond between us. The silence stretched. Then the young Pillowon spoke again. Your creature trusts you to understand her nature. Owen looked at the child and smiled. Yes, and I trust her to be exactly who she is. Judge Ornith studied Pepper's sleeping form for a long moment. Then, without comment, the judges moved on to the next presentation. Owen sat down outside the enclosure, suddenly exhausted. Kiba approached him quietly. That was brave, she said. I just showed them the truth. Sometimes the truth is the bravest thing of all. Inside the enclosure, Pepper snored softly, completely oblivious to the fact that she'd just challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about companionship. The judges deliberated for what felt like hours. Owen sat with Pepper, who had woken from her nap and now demanded attention by head-butting his hand repeatedly. Spectators still lingered near the enclosure, though the initial panic had faded into curiosity that a group of young aliens approached cautiously. The small Palawan from before led them, her dark eyes wide with wonder. "Can we see her closer?" the child asked. Owen glanced at the parents hovering nearby, their expressions uncertain. "If your parents say it's okay." The adults exchanged looks. Finally, one nodded. Owen opened a small access panel in the enclosure. "Move slowly. Let her come to you if she wants. Don't grab at her." The young Palawan extended a small, three-fingered hand. Pepper sniffed it carefully, her whiskers twitching. Then she rubbed her cheek against the child's fingers. "She is so soft," the Palawan whispered. "And warm." Other children gathered, each taking turns under Owen's supervision. A young Churuk touched Pepper's fur and clicked with amazement. Like touching a cloud. Their parents watched tensely, ready to pull their children back at any sign of danger. But Pepper simply accepted the attention with regal tolerance, purring steadily. "How does the purring work?" one child asked. "She has special bones in her throat that vibrate." Scientists on Earth still aren't completely sure why cats purr, but we know they do it when they're content. Sometimes when they're hurt too, maybe to comfort themselves. Can all Earth animals purr? No, just cats. Every species has their own special things. The educational moment was interrupted by raised voices near the judging platform. Owen looked up to see Counselor Vim arguing with Dr. Cray. "This is exactly the problem," Vim was saying, his mood sphere companion pulsing an agitated red. "You present a predator as a companion, and now children are touching it. This creature represents everything civilized species have evolved beyond. Violence, prédation, danger. This creature represents what you have lost," Dr. Cray shot back. "The ability to trust something different from yourself." "Trust?" Vim laughed. "That animal operates on instinct and hunger. There is no trust, only the human's delusion that he has tamed the untamable." Owen felt anger rise in his chest, but before he could respond, Kiba spoke up from beside him. "May I share something?" She addressed Vim directly. "I've been thinking about my Shimmer. We share a perfect biochemical bond, but Shimmer has no choice in this bond. It exists as an extension of my biological systems. Is that truly companionship, or is it just a sophisticated form of self-care?" Vim's mood sphere shifted to a dismissive purple. Symbiosis is the highest form of relationship. Both parties benefit in perfect harmony. But do both parties choose? Kiba pressed. "I have watched Owen and Pepper. Sometimes she ignores him. Sometimes she refuses to do what he wants. Yet she stays with him. That is a choice." The crowd had gone quiet, listening. Owen found himself speaking, though he'd planned to stay silent. "I found Pepper when she was tiny, injured, and alone. I could have kept her confined, controlled every aspect of her life. But I didn't. I gave her space to be herself. She could have left. Sometimes the door to my quarters opens, and she looks out into the corridor, curious. But she always comes back." "Conditioning," Vim scoffed. "You provide food and shelter. Of course she returns." "Maybe," Owen admitted. "But she also returns when I'm sad and curls up against me. She returns when I've had a bad day and headbutts my hand until I pet her. She didn't learn that from conditioning. She's offering comfort. That's not instinct. That's relationship." A soft chime interrupted the debate. The judges had reached their decision. Judge Ornith's crystalline form caught the light as they stepped forward. "We have evaluated all presentations based on traditional criteria. The purity of bond, the aesthetic beauty of the relationship, the demonstrated care and knowledge." The hall fell silent. Third place is awarded to Ratch and Filna for their exceptional acoustic symbiosis with the singing crystals. The Churuk pair clicked with pleasure, accepting a small crystal trophy. Second place is awarded to Kiba for the perfect biological partnership demonstrated with her algae colony. Kiba looked surprised but pleased, her skin flushing a darker blue. First place, as has been tradition, goes to Yenneith for the pure, empathic connection demonstrated with her mood spheres. Yenneith's spheres shifted to a triumphant gold. She accepted her trophy with obvious satisfaction. Owen felt disappointment, but not surprise. He'd known Pepper didn't fit their traditional categories, but Judge Ornith wasn't finished. However, this year we have witnessed something unprecedented, something that challenges our understanding of what companionship can mean. The judge's crystalline body seemed to pulse with inner light. Most species choose companions that reflect their own nature. We bond with creatures similar to us, or creatures that meet our specific needs. We seek harmony, symmetry, mutual benefit. Ornith moved closer to Owen's enclosure. Pepper, disturbed from her nap again, opened one eye and yawned, showing her tiny fangs. Humans, it seems, choose companions that challenge them. They bond with creatures fundamentally different from themselves. They accept imperfection, inconvenience, even occasional pain. And in doing so, they demonstrate something we may have forgotten. The silence was absolute. Companionship is not about controlling nature. It is about respecting it. It is not about creating perfection. It is about accepting reality. The human and his cat do not exist in perfect harmony. They exist in honest relationship. Ornith produced a new trophy, one Owen hadn't seen before. It seemed to have been created on the spot, its surface still raw and unfinished. We create a new category, the Cross-Species Understanding Award, for demonstrating that the greatest bonds are not those that eliminate all differences, but those that honor them. Owen stood, stunned, as Ornith extended the trophy. This award goes to Owen Briggs and Pepper for showing us that companionship requires courage. The courage to trust something that could hurt you. The courage to respect something you could control. The courage to love something that will, inevitably, leave you far too soon. Owen accepted the trophy with shaking hands. It wasn't first place. It wasn't even the traditional categories. But it was recognition. It was understanding that Yenneith's mood spheres flared in angry crimson. This is ridiculous. You've corrupted the entire purpose of this exhibition with sentiment and politics. But Kiba was applauding, her small hands making soft patting sounds. The young Pillowon joined in, then her parents, then Ratch and Filna. Soon much of the crowd was applauding, though many still looked uncertain. Owen knelt down and opened the enclosure. Pepper walked out, completely unconcerned with the ceremony happening around her. She rubbed against Owen's legs, then sat down and began grooming herself. Owen picked her up. She allowed it, settling into his arms with the ease of long familiarity. Then she did something she only did when she was particularly content. She reached up and gently head-butted his chin. Even the skeptics in the crowd couldn't deny the authenticity of that gesture. Whatever else Pepper was, she clearly had affection for the human holding her. Judge Ornith's light pulsed one final time. Let this be a lesson. We gather to celebrate companionship, but perhaps we have been celebrating only its most comfortable forms. True companionship, the kind that changes us, often comes from the most unexpected places. As Owen carried Pepper out of the exhibition hall, trophy in hand, he heard Vim still protesting. But he also heard conversations starting, questions being asked, minds beginning to open. Pepper, oblivious to her role in a cultural revolution, simply purred against his chest and closed her eyes. She was a cat. She'd always just be a cat. But maybe that was enough. Owen's message queue was overflowing. He stared at the screen in disbelief. Hundreds of messages from across the station, from across the sector, even from distant worlds he'd never heard of. Some were hostile. You've made a mockery of interspecies harmony. Deathworlders should keep their predators to themselves. This is why Earth should remain quarantined. But many were different. I never understood why humans seemed so strange. Now I think I see it. Could you explain more about how you trained your cat? My child hasn't stopped talking about Pepper for 3 days. Pepper herself was completely unbothered by her newfound fame. She sat on Owen's workstation, deliberately pushing a stylus toward the edge with one paw, watching Owen with clear intent. Don't, Owen warned. She pushed it off. It clattered to the floor. Why are you like this? Pepper purred at a chime at the door, interrupted them. Dr. Cray entered, carrying a data tablet that glowed with information. I published my paper, she said without preamble. Human-animal bonds. Trust across the predator-prey divide. It has already been downloaded 50,000 times. Owen blinked. That's a lot. For a xenobiology paper, it is unprecedented. Dr. Cray sat down, her reptilian features animated with excitement. The academic community is in upheaval. Some are calling it groundbreaking. Others are calling it dangerous propaganda. But everyone is talking about it. What does the paper say? That humans represent a unique case study in cross-species bonding. That your ability to form emotional connections with predators, prey animals, and everything in between suggests a psychological adaptability that may be a survival trait from Earth's hostile environment. Owen scratched Pepper behind the ears. We just like animals. It is more than that. Other species bond with creatures that serve a purpose or reflect their values. Humans bond with creatures that challenge you to be better. You domesticated wolves into dogs, predators into protectors. You befriended cats, even though they offered no practical benefit. You rescue injured wild animals and nurse them back to health, even when they cannot repay you. Doesn't everyone do that? No, Owen. They do not. The door chimed again. This time it was Kiba, and she looked distressed. Her skin had paled to almost white. I need your advice, she said softly. It is about Shimmer. Owen invited her in. Kiba sat carefully, holding the container with her algae colony. The lights within Shimmer seemed dimmer than before. Shimmer is dying, Kiba said. The life cycle is ending. This is natural for the species. But I have been using biochemical supplements to keep the colony alive beyond its natural span. Why? Owen asked gently. Because I thought companionship meant keeping them forever. Because the bond felt too precious to let go. Owen understood that feeling intimately. How long does Shimmer usually live? 5 years. Shimmer is now approaching 8. And you've been forcing her to live longer. Kiba's skin flushed with shame. I told myself I was caring for her. But watching you with Pepper made me realize something. You know Pepper will not live as long as you. She will age, sicken, and die while you're still young. Yet you love her anyway. Owen felt a familiar ache in his chest. Yeah, cats live maybe 15 years if they're lucky. I'll have to say goodbye to her someday. That doesn't make our time together less valuable. It makes it more precious. But how do you accept that? I don't know if I do accept it. Not really. But loving something means accepting it will end. That's part of the deal. Kiba was quiet for a long moment, looking at Shimmer. I have been selfish, keeping Shimmer alive for my own comfort, not for her benefit. What will you do? Stop the supplements. Let nature take its course. It will be difficult. Yeah, Owen agreed. It will be. After Kiba left, Owen received a summons from Station Administrator Keeve. He expected trouble. Instead, he found the elderly Hexite reviewing data with what might have been approval. Briggs, Keeve rumbled. You have caused quite a disruption. I didn't mean to. Nevertheless, you have. And interestingly, the disruption appears to be positive. Keeve pulled up psychological evaluation reports. We monitor crew well-being across the station. Since the exhibition, we have seen a measurable decrease in isolation incidents among mixed-species crews. People are talking, sharing, asking questions about different approaches to companionship. That's good. It is unexpected. Counselor Vim has filed a formal complaint, of course. He wants Earth creatures banned from all future cultural exhibitions. But the data suggests your participation has increased cultural exchange, not damaged it. Owen didn't know what to say to that. Keeve continued. Dr. Cray has proposed an educational program. She wants to create workshops about death world species and human domestication practices. She has requested you as a consultant. I'm not a teacher. I just have a cat. Sometimes that is exactly the expertise needed. Not academic knowledge, but lived experience. Owen left the administrator's office feeling overwhelmed. He just wanted to go back to his quiet life, maintaining environmental systems and living with his cat. Instead, he'd somehow become a symbol of something bigger. Back in his quarters, he found Pepper asleep in a sunbeam from the viewport. She looked peaceful, utterly unconcerned with cultural movements or academic papers. His message queue pinged again. This one was from a young Drennick, probably a teenager. I have always found my family's mood spheres boring. They are beautiful, but predictable. After seeing your cat, I looked up other Earth animals. Did you know there are birds that can learn to speak? And creatures called dogs that can sense when humans are sad? I never knew companionship could be so varied and interesting. Thank you for showing us something different. Owen read the message 3 times. Then he looked at another one, from Churik. My people bond with singing crystals for their beauty and harmony. But I have a small reptilian creature from my homeworld that I rescued as a hatchling. I have always hidden it, ashamed that I prefer this lesser companion to the traditional choice. Seeing you with Pepper made me realize there is no shame in loving what you love, even if others do not understand. More messages like that filled his queue. People confessing to non-traditional companions. People asking questions about different ways to bond. People who had felt isolated in their choices and now felt less alone. Pepper woke up and stretched, her claws extending to dig into the cushion. She jumped down and walked over to Owen, meowing imperiously for dinner. Owen fed her, watching as she crunched through her meal with typical feline focus. She had no idea that she'd sparked conversations across the galaxy. She was just being herself, living her life, existing in the way cats had existed for thousands of years. Maybe that was the point. Pepper didn't need to be anything more than what she was. And somehow, in being purely herself, she'd shown others that they could be themselves too. Doctor. Cray's message appeared. I have approval for the educational program. First session is tomorrow. 30 registered participants. Are you ready? Owen looked at Pepper, who had finished eating and was now grooming her face with meticulous care. No, he said aloud, but I'll do it anyway. Pepper paused her grooming to give him a slow blink, the feline equivalent of a kiss. Then she went back to cleaning her paws, completely unconcerned with tomorrow's challenges. Owen smiled. If a 4-kilogram cat could change the galaxy's perspective just by being herself, maybe he could manage to teach a few classes. Besides, Pepper would probably do all the real work anyway. She usually did. 3 months had passed since the exhibition. Owen stood in front of a small classroom, Pepper's carrier at his feet, facing 15 aliens of various species who all looked deeply curious and slightly nervous. Okay, Owen began. Today we're talking about consent in animal interaction. The most important thing to understand is that Pepper can say no to me, and I have to listen. He opened the carrier. Pepper emerged, surveyed the room with typical feline skepticism, and promptly walked back into the carrier. Like that, Owen said, she's not ready to come out yet. So we wait. A Pillowon in the front row raised a tentative hand. You mean the creature can reject your commands? Pepper doesn't really do commands. She's not a dog. Cats are more independent. She cooperates when she wants to, and when she doesn't, I have to respect that. But you are the intelligent species. You could force compliance. I could, Owen agreed. But then what kind of relationship would we have? One based on control? That's not companionship. That's domination. He coaxed Pepper out with gentle words. She eventually emerged, moving to the sunbeam streaming through the window. She settled down and began grooming herself, completely ignoring the class. Watch her body language, Owen instructed. Her ears are forward, relaxed. Her tail is still. She's comfortable. If her ears went back, or her tail started lashing, that would mean she's stressed or annoyed. The class observed with fascination. Owen demonstrated different forms of cat communication. The slow blink that meant affection. The chirp sound she made when she saw birds. The way she rubbed her face on things to mark them as safe and familiar. Can she understand you when you speak? Someone asked. She understands tone more than words. She knows her name. She knows certain phrases like dinner time because I always say them the same way. But we don't have conversations. It's more like we've learned to read each other. A young Drennick in the back spoke up. My family says I am foolish for wanting a companion that cannot share thoughts empathically. They say true bonding requires mental connection. Mental connection sounds amazing, Owen said, but it's not the only way to bond. Pepper and I connect through actions, routines, and trust. She shows me who she is through her behavior. I show her I understand by respecting her needs. Over the weeks, Owen's educational sessions became surprisingly popular. Word spread. More aliens attended. Some came out of xenobiological curiosity. Others came because they had their own non-traditional companions and wanted to feel less alone. Kiba became a regular visitor. She let Shimmer complete its natural life cycle and had found peace in the decision. Now she attended the sessions with a new companion, a small bioluminescent creature from her homeworld that most Pillawans considered too simple for serious bonding. They do not share my thoughts or reflect my emotions, Kiba explained to the class one day. They simply exist beside me, glowing in patterns I find beautiful, and that is enough. But not everyone was pleased. Counselor Vim escalated his opposition, calling for a station-wide referendum. He wanted all undomesticated predator species banned from residential zones. The vote was scheduled for the following month. Station media covered it extensively. Debates raged in public forums. Owen tried to stay out of it, but Dr. Cray convinced him to speak at the public forum before the vote. "I'm not a politician," Owen protested. "You do not need to be. Just tell the truth." The forum was packed. Owen stood at the podium, Pepper in his arms because she refused to stay in the carrier. Security looked tense. The crowd murmured with anticipation. Vim spoke first, presenting statistics and biological data. Predators are inherently dangerous. Their instincts cannot be fully suppressed. Allowing them in residential areas puts all residents at risk. Then it was Owen's turn. He looked at the crowd, felt Pepper's warm weight in his arms, and spoke from the heart. "I came to this station 3 years ago. I was alone, the only human in this sector. Everyone around me thought differently, spoke differently, experienced the world differently. I was isolated in ways I didn't know how to fix." He stroked Pepper's head. She purred loud enough for the microphones to pick it up. Pepper didn't fix that isolation, but she taught me something important. She taught me that I could connect with someone completely different from me. She's a carnivore from a death world. I'm a primate who builds starships. We shouldn't work, but we do. Owen looked directly at Vim. You talk about control and safety. But the reason Pepper is safe isn't because I control her. It's because we understand each other. I respect her boundaries. I provide for her needs. I let her be herself. And in return, she chooses to be with me. He paused. Every day, she chooses me. That choice is what makes our bond real. Something unexpected happened. Pepper jumped from Owen's arms. The crowd gasped. Security moved forward, but Pepper didn't run or hide. She walked calmly across the forum floor, directly toward Judge Ornith, who sat in the audience observing. The crystalline being didn't move. Pepper approached, sniffed the base of Ornith's structure, and then rubbed her face against it, marking the judge as safe and familiar. Ornith's light pulsed with what might have been amusement. The creature demonstrates trust across species boundaries once again. She has learned we are not threats. This is not instinct. This is intelligence applied to relationship. The crowd erupted in discussion. Vim tried to argue that Pepper's behavior proved nothing, but the moment had shifted the atmosphere. The vote came back negative. The ban failed to pass. It wasn't a landslide, but it was enough. Station governance issued a compromise. Educational requirements for high-maintenance companion species. Owen became the unofficial consultant for developing those standards. Vim retreated, his campaign defeated. Yenith stopped competing in exhibitions, apparently tired of the controversy. But the changes they'd resisted continued to spread. Owen started seeing other Earth animals on the station. Someone acquired a small dog. Another person had a parrot that could mimic station announcements. The taboo was breaking. More importantly, aliens started being honest about their own non-traditional companions. The churk with the rescued reptile went public. The young Drennick got permission to keep a small avian creature that sang in the mornings. Diversity in companionship became accepted, even celebrated. Dr. Cray's research expanded. She began studying other human domestication relationships, fascinated by the variety. Dogs that could detect medical conditions. Horses that humans rode for sport. birds that humans taught to speak. Every relationship reveals something different, she told Owen. But they all share one thing. Humans bond across the boundaries that other species consider absolute. One day, Owen received a message that made him smile. An invitation to next year's Galactic Harmony Pet exhibition. They'd made the Cross-Species Understanding Award a permanent category. Owen declined politely. He'd proven his point. Pepper had changed minds just by being herself. They didn't need to do it again. That evening, Owen sat by the viewport in his quarters, watching the station lights glitter against the darkness of space. Pepper finished her dinner and jumped into his lap, kneading his legs with her claws. It hurt a little, but Owen didn't move her. She circled 3 times, then settled down, purring. Her weight was warm and solid and familiar. Owen thought about everything that had changed. The educational programs, the research papers, the cultural conversations. All because he'd refused to accept that his cat was dangerous. But nothing important had changed, not really. Pepper was still just a cat. She still knocked things off tables. She still woke him at strange hours, demanding attention. She still bit his hand during play and brought him toy mice as gifts. She was imperfect, inconvenient, and completely herself. And Owen wouldn't change a single thing. Pepper's purring intensified. She reached up and gently head-butted his chin, a gesture of pure affection. Owen scratched behind her ears and whispered, "Good girl." She purred louder. Somewhere in the galaxy, Vim was probably still complaining about dangerous Death World predators. Somewhere, Yeneth's mood spheres were shifting through their perfect emotional spectrums. Somewhere, beings were bonding with companions that reflected their values and met their needs. And here, in a small quarters on Station Concordia, a human and a cat existed together in honest, imperfect companionship. Not because it was easy, not because it was perfect, but because they'd chosen each other across all the boundaries that should have kept them apart. Pepper fell asleep, her small body rising and falling with each breath. Owen held her carefully, aware of how fragile she was, how brief her life would be compared to his. Loving something meant accepting it would end. That's what he'd told Kiba, and it was true. Someday, far too soon, he'd have to say goodbye to Pepper. The thought was painful enough that Owen pushed it away. But not tonight. Tonight, she was here, warm and purring and completely content. Tonight was enough. Outside the viewport, the galaxy turned. Civilizations rose and fell. Species evolved and adapted. Change was constant, inevitable, but some truths remained eternal. The bond between two beings who chose to trust each other. The warmth of companionship. The simple comfort of not being alone. Pepper twitched in her sleep, probably dreaming of hunting. Her paws flexed, tiny claws extending and retracting. Owen smiled and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, they'd face whatever challenges came. Tomorrow, there would be more classes, more questions, more debates about the nature of companionship. But tonight, there was just this. A human and a cat. Two beings from a dangerous world, finding peace among the stars. And maybe, Owen thought as sleep began to claim him. Maybe that was the most important thing humans had brought to the galaxy. Not technology or science or military might. Just the simple, revolutionary idea that love didn't require perfection, that IT only required truth.